Well, hello again and welcome to my channel. I wanted to do a quick video for you beginners on palettes. We have a lot of different types of palettes, a lot of options, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to start with, and I'll explain that as we go. I wanted to start with my big one that I usually use. This is a Masterson, and it comes with a lid, which is interchangeable as an extra mixing palette. So here's the lid. You can seal it all up tight to keep the dust out of your paints. But if you flip it over, you've got yourself an extra tray or a nice extra mixing area. So it's very convenient. This has a lot of spaces in it. This is a new one that I just got. I'll show you my old one because I kind of customized it. This is my old one. And what I did is I learned this from David R. Smith. He took some caulk and he divided his so that he had more mixing areas. And I thought, oh, that's convenient. I'm going to do that. So I got some caulk and I caulked myself some extra mixing areas because I thought just 3 wasn't enough. And I don't like things mixing with each other. Some people do that. And I don't know how they get pure pigment on their canvases because it's all mixed together. It's all run together. And I just don't like that. So I like having these individual sections. And then over here, I put a little extra Daniel Smith Payne's Gray because I kind of run out. And I like this one because it has enough room that you can write what you've got in there on the side with a permanent marker so it'll stay on there. And I really like to be able to, I don't, to name them because I have a hard time remembering the names of everything, particularly the brands, because some brands have very exact name to the color, but they are different. So if there's a certain color that I like with a Daniel Smith that maybe I don't like as much with a Winsor Newton, I want to be able to remember what it was by writing that on here. So this is a Winsor. Well, most of these are Windsor. Sennelier. I've got Daniel Smith. So there's a core. There's certain colors that I just like from different makers. So that's the big one. But if you're just starting out, you know what? Little one is fine. These are great for acrylics too because in acrylics, after the paint's dry, you can just peel them right off. And they might leave a little stain on there, but they work. But this is great for if you just want to take a box of colored watercolor pencils with you in a tiny sketchbook and just take it with you on vacation so that if you see something pretty, you can sketch it out and put some color to it and you're good to go. This is the one I use with my beginner classes. As you are familiar with, I just stuck this paper on the back. But if you open it up, you've got room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 colors. And then I stuck my ultramarine over here. This is a cheaper lemon yellow, which is why it's coming. That's how you know it's a really cheap paint. The good ones don't do that. These have a little too much binder and not enough pigment. And I couldn't find my good lemon yellow, and I had to grab a cheap beginner set that I had tested out. This was my good one that I was looking for, my Winsor Newton. I couldn't find it, so that cheap brand, they just dry up and peel right out. That tells you it's not a good one. But anyway, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mixing areas, and it does have this funny little thing. And some people are like, "What is that?" That's for you to put your thumb in, so you can hold it while you're painting with your brush, and then the brush that you're not using, you can tuck in here if you want to. You've got an extra brush in there, and there's another one right here you can put in. But it is convenient if you're out and about doing plein air painting. Obviously, if you're at home, it's going to be sitting on a table, and I actually use that as a place to put my white. So that's one of those. These are like, I think it was under $8 at Jerry's. This one I liked for taking on trips and traveling where I don't want to take that big, huge one. So I've got a lot of colors in here, and this end comes out. So if I want to, I can have 2 large mixing areas by setting this right here. And I've got a palette as big as my large one that I showed you to begin with, my big Masterson. This is the same size as my Masterson, but it folds up. That clicks in, and it folds up to this little tiny. And this is, what is this called? This is called a Magello. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but again, most of my stuff I buy at my local Jerry's or online Jerry's, but I have used other places as well. There's lots of places to buy your supplies. If you're just starting out and you don't want to spend a lot of money on a lot of supplies, go find a white plate in the kitchen. A white plate will work great. You don't want to eat on it after using it for your paints, but you know, a white plate is great. All my plates are red, so I couldn't show you that, but a porcelain plate is perfect for mixing paint on. This is porcelain. You can pick these things, these old porcelain bake pans, you can pick up at a thrift store for like $3 or $4. And you've got yourself a big 13 by, let's see, what is the 9 by 13 is the standard cake pan. This one actually was made for art. I got it at the art store, but it's the same thing. It's just a little shallower. But it is a porcelain over metal pan, and it's wonderful for mixing, and it just cleans up so well because it is porcelain and not plastic. Oh gosh, you clean this thing out and it just looks spanking new. No stains left. Remember, if you go to the thrift store to buy one of these, you have to check it for chips. If it has chips, as it gets wet and dries, it will rust, and that rust will get into your paints and on your paper, and you will not be removing that rust. So unless you want that color, I would not be risking one that has any chips in it. Even at the art store, the first one I picked up had a little chip right in the middle somewhere in here, and I had to go grab a different one just to make sure that I didn't run into that rusting problem down the road. But I do like this just because it cleans so easily, and if I've got enough room to take it with me, it is convenient. I do a lot of pouring with my watercolors, in which case you want to mix up separate things. I've got about a dozen of these, where you want to pre-mix your paint to different levels of consistency and have it ready to pour on your canvas and move your paper around for the water to flow. And you have to have something that you can easily pour, which obviously you can't do with this because everything is going to be pouring out together. So these little mixing bowls from the art store, you don't have to use these. You could go to the dollar store and buy the little plastic. You can get a whole container of like 25 or 50 of those little plastic containers for a few bucks, or $1.25 actually at the Dollar Tree. And they're clear. Sometimes they have lids, sometimes they don't. But as long as you've got something you can pour out of, if you wanted to pour, you could use those instead of having to spend a little more money on these. I like these because the plastic, they're called plastic water cups, but I use them for paint. They're thicker plastic, and so I can't break them as easily. And if I'm traveling, they kind of get shoved down in the case. So the other thing I wanted to show you that isn't a palette, but it has to do with traveling with your watercolors and your... So this is a wonderful little water bucket. I love it. I take it when I'm going to work at the studio downtown and I don't feel like carrying a big plastic water cup or glass thing. And you stick your brushes in here. And you're set to go. And it doesn't drip. It doesn't leak. I've had this for like 20 years. This thing still works great. You can scrub it out and clean it, and then you just shove it flat and stick it in your purse or your bag and head home. So I just wanted to go over those little things with you for palettes, and I hope that helps you with picking a palette. Remember, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can just use a white plate from the kitchen, and or a $3 plate from Walmart paint section. This just doesn't hold as many colors, and there's only 2 little tiny mixing areas. So if it were me, I'd rather have a plate from the kitchen than even this. But there are many options for all kinds of budgets when you want to paint. So either way, grab some paint and some paintbrushes and keep painting. Talk to you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.